We're going to talk about compost today, but to begin with, we're going to pull on what we did last week, which was a discussion of the history of the soil and the soil environmental catastrophes in the South. Soil and dirt are the two words that I want to define. And growing up in the country, to me, everything was dirt. Anything in the ground was dirt. But I have tried really hard as a professional to use the right word, soil. The difference in the two words is this. Soil is a living universe under your feet. Soil is the mineral component. It is the sand, the silica, the broken down granite. It is all of those tiny mineral components combined with a living component. So here's soil, this big world of a living component built on a non-living component, right? Dirt is what's left over after the living component is killed or dies for some reason. So if you look at this soil in this field behind me, in parts of it, I'm going to just hold it up. You can see some living stuff, right? You see some fungus, some little baby plants, some decomposing organic matter. If I can, I'm going to take this off and step out just a little bit further. Out in this commercial ag field, we have a lot less of that. There's still a little bit, but basically what you're looking at is the sand, the silica particles. It's like glass. It's got a little clay mixed in. That's what's giving it color, right? The reason that this behind me is not soil or not a healthy soil is that in commercial agriculture that we started after World War II, we started doing things that killed the living component. Things like constant tilling 4, sometimes 5 times a year. Y'all know the guy who would, like, every time you get a weed, he pulls out the tiller and goes tilling down to kill the weeds, right? Excessive tilling kills living things in the soil. Fertilizers are made of salts. Salts kill soft-bodied living things. Herbicides, all kinds of things in that process kill the living component of the soil. And then what we do is supplement with chemical-based fertilizers that are specifically designed to feed the plants for good growth. Okay, that's just what we do. We accepted the trade-offs of that system when we moved into this. Every scientist, every agriculturalist knew that we were going to be doing this, but we knew that we thought that we knew how to manage it. In retrospect, that wasn't such a great idea, because we've ended up with dirt that erodes due to wind, such as in the Dust Bowl, right? Everybody's seen the Ken Burns movie, blows away. In our case, we have hills, so we lose a lot of that loose dirt to erosion from water. I want to show you here something that I feel like everybody I know has heard me say this, either in a lecture or by being here. I want to show you how much we have lost. If Tom can zoom down to the pole, you see this bamboo pole? So Tom's standing on it, keeping it level. So from our farm, where Tom is, to this farm, at level, we've lost 9.5 inches of topsoil, which I don't care how many times I say it, it gives me chill bumps to say that. Like, what an incredible loss that is. Luckily, we have a perfect example side by side here of a place that has been in no-till organic management for years, and a place that's in typical ag. Now, I want to give my neighbor credit. He's a great farmer, and he's doing all the stuff now that he should be doing. all the stuff that most ag colleges are telling farmers to do. We understand now what's happened, and we're moving toward no-till and stuff like that. But I'm going to climb over the fence, and we're going to look at the living soil, the whole component on our side. So I'm not going to go through our whole composting system, which we call sheet composting. That's what feeds all of our plants, and that's what has helped build our soil over the past 30 years. But it's not appropriate for most people. So what we're going to do is look at it really quickly and then move to a more backyard composting system. This is soil. This is absolutely living, full of stuff, and probably when I dig down here today, I'm not going to find anything I want. But can you see how easy this is to dig? Look. I mean, I can push my hand down into this like 6 inches. It's crazy, isn't it? So, yeah, so there's a little mushroom. You probably can't tell what that is. There's all kind of earthworms. There are different layers. Here's a little guy. Is that called an earwig? This is a universe of life beneath our feet, and is our responsibility to take care of it and to take care of those life forms just as it is to take care of elephants and eagles and trees and frogs. But we forget about it because we don't always see it and we don't understand it. Okay, let's go look at a backyard system. Was that too preachy? You want to bring me my soapbox? We have a composting system that's appropriate for a big garden. So what we have are 2 bins made out of old pallets. One of them is basically a storage bin. So one of them is one that I pile up leaves and weeds and things that we cut, and we put our food scraps from the garden, and they just kind of sit there and they break down a little bit. And then we use it on a day that we have time to make compost, to make a compost pile in the open bin. So green, which is nitrogen, brown, which is carbon. So we're going to use our brown, the stuff that's been drying out here, to make a layer in the bottom of this bin. Okay, if I had leaves, we have a sycamore tree that's already dropping, I could bring those leaves in. But then we have to have a layer of green. So this is just some old bachelor button that I pulled up out the garden this morning. You don't have to do this. We could just layer in, but what we do is a little chopping, and that chopping makes it easier for the earwigs and the worms and the microbes and the fungi to start work. So there's layer 1. It's hard to do this with a big wire attached to me. There's layer. Normally I would have a pitchfork to do this too, but I don't today. We're not adding manure, we're not adding fertilizer. This is all we're doing. I'm going to do another layer of green. And I'll tell you what, just to show you, I have some sort of canna stuff. You know, we were talking on the class about how papayas are such a weed, but I just let papayas come up wherever they will. All kind of weeds, as long as they don't have seeds on them. We have a bunch of Malabar spinach on this fence over here, like this stuff. I could just rip this off, but look, Malabar spinach has seeds, beautiful seeds. They're probably going to come up because our compost system is not doing what a commercial compost system is. It's not getting to a really, really hot point. It'll get hot, it'll warm up, and it'll work. Enough to kill seeds of something like Malabar spinach, tomatoes, papaya, but that's all right. I mean, I'm just not really worried about it. We're going to have weeds no matter what. Right. Just to give you an idea of what we took the stuff out in about June, out that compost bin, and we scattered it all on this area. So if you look closely, you can see there's eggshells. You could probably see some sticks that were in there that didn't break down. That's all right. Those sticks, that sort of stuff is going to break down here, and while it's in the compost pile, it's adding a little air, which all those little microorganisms need. You don't have a lot of food scraps. If you don't have a lot of yard waste enough to justify something like that, there are several ways to do it differently. One is the most simple way in the world, and this is what we have done in our little city house for years, is collect stuff in a little bin and then take it outside with a shovel, or I used to keep post hole diggers, and bury it in the yard. As long as you bury it about that deep, you're not going to have a problem with animals coming around and digging it up, which I guess in the city you might worry about, but you know, that's the easiest way to maintain your food scraps and to build the soil in your garden. That I wrote about in Deep Rooted Wisdom, and I love this system. So this is called a Bokashi System. See the Bokashi? There are lots of brands of Bokashi I'm going to tell you about. I think I got this system at Gardner Supply in Columbia years ago. You can get them online. Lots of places ship them. Basically, this is an anaerobic system that works in your kitchen. So you have this little special bucket, and in this bucket you have a strainer in the bottom. Okay, can y'all see it has holes in it? All right, we got that strainer down there, right? We're gonna put the strainer in. This is the little kitchen compost thing that we use for kitchen scraps here, and I'm gonna dump all that in there. Lots of eggshells because it's and then you take your Bokashi, which is bran inoculated with microbes, and you put a little layer of Bokashi in there. About 10 days from now, what will happen is all of that will turn into compost tea, and we have this little valve down here, and we just drain out some tea into a cup, and you dump that on house plants. Did you get that, Tom? Okay, and you continue every time you need to. You continue putting stuff in there. You don't want to open it like every day, so you don't need to open it every day. It does have a little bit of a smell, but I did this for like 2 years in my kitchen and never had any issue. About every third or fourth week, you have to take out that compressed stuff and dump it out. So what I would do is dump it in the yard. Now, my friend Jamie lived on a 12th floor apartment, and he would put it in a plastic bag, which of course we all know you all fold your plastic bags and have them neatly stored like my friend Bonnie does. He would then haul that down to the pool at the bottom of the condo complex, sneak around and bury it in some bushes. Well, he got tired of that, so I wouldn't worry about it. That's like too extreme for me. I would just put this stuff in a plastic bag, tie it up, and throw it away, because you've gotten all the nutrients that you're going to get out of it. If you live in big cities, there are services that actually come and they pick up your kombucha. Is that right? Did I get the things mixed up? Your kombucha waste. This is a Japanese system, and this is also a scalable system like the compost bin that we looked at earlier. So the way I came across this system was in Dominican Republic. I was way up in the hills, and I ran into some Japanese farmers. I started looking into it. The reason that there are Japanese farmers all through the hills of the Dominican Republic is after World War II, Trujillo, the most horrid dictator, what's the book? The Feast of the Goat is about Trujillo's life and murder in Dominican Republic. He had some really great ideas, though. He went to places where people had gardened and farmed with very limited resources, and he asked them to come to Dominican Republic and set up farms. Well, there was no fertilizer plant on Dominican Republic at the time on the entire island. So the Japanese brought with them this Bokashi system. And while I was walking around this farm, there were these massive silos where they did Bokashi composting in hundreds and hundreds of gallons. And that was the fertility for these farms in very isolated parts of the high mountains on Hispaniola. So we're going to end with that little bit of history. Happy birthday, Donna Christine. Bye, y'all.